What's up guys, Max here and welcome back to my dungeon. I know, I've been away for a month or so, but my full-time job was a bit harder, so I had to dedicate myself fully to it and some other life stuff. But anyway, I had to do what I had to do. Now I'm here today for showing you an old glory, the GTX 780 Ti, that can be found around 100 bucks on eBay or 100 euro, depends on your patience and a bit of luck. Since we all know that the situation of GPU right now is quite unsettling and, well, we don't have much to do, just find alternatives. So I prepared some actual gameplay with this card in various zones, so open world, even a 40-man battleground, so you can see exactly if you choose to buy a second-hand GPU, what will be your gameplay. But now let's get straight to the point and see what this old beast is capable of. Alright, so the graphics settings is configured as you can see. So in this case, I'm going with the recommended settings. So it's a mix between good, this one is low, but some are maxed out. And I have to say that it's not that bad. Yes, it can be better, but this is, I think, the right balance between performance and visual quality. So we have everything as recommended, 4040p resolution, no anti-aliasing, and here, to simulate my display, this is 144 Hz, I blocked the FPS at, of course, 144 FPS. In this case, with the acquisition card plugged, so this system is plugged in my second streaming PC, so everything you see here is the real performance, but there's a catch, since uh, if I want 60 FPS on my main display with the acquisition card plugged to the HDMI exit, probably what you can see right now in the screen is at 30 FPS. So this card is a bit old, and if I connect only the display port, I can run at 144 FPS, but when I plug the recording HDMI output, you will see 30 FPS and I will see 60 FPS on my primary screen. And for the build specification, if you can see here, we have the Ryzen 5 5600X, that is, my opinion, one of the best budget value CPU for World of Warcraft. Our GTX 780 Ti, the MSI B450MA Pro Max, the cheap one is like 60 bucks, and a couple of crucial ballistic 3200 MHz C16 that in this case is tuned to 3800 MHz 11, so FCLK to 1900 C16 with a fast profile from Ryzen derived calculator that well, is easy to obtain with this motherboard, this CPU, and is pretty fast. A very important thing that with this GPU, I don't know why it should be DirectX 12, but I cannot run at DirectX 12, but DirectX 11, and this might be an issue with a slower CPU, since the DirectX 12 helps a lot. There's some kind of multi-threading, well, it's not a real multi-threading, but it helps with the high stressful situation for the CPU. But in this case, I don't really care, since the 5600X is more than enough for this tier of GPU. But you have to keep in mind, if you have a Zen 2 or Zen 1 or a Generation 9 Intel, this might be a little setback. But anyway, you will see the performance is still pretty nice. But now it's time to move to Arden. That is by far the worst possible scenario for a GPU to run the game. And here we are, in one of the most bugged or tough for GPU spot in the game. So you're talking about 90 FPS on this side, that is almost fine, is what generally you will find roaming around Ardenwell. But some zone like this, if you turn to this side, we have 60 FPS. Still good, but keep in mind that this game is pretty old and the engine sometimes is, I can say, bugged or really that it behaves in a weird manner. And but anyway, we can range from 60 to 90 FPS, same settings. So we're talking about good, this low, good, good, this maxed out. So it's a compromise, but it's a compromise that allows you to play. Let's kill something. So I can play smoothly at 100 FPS. In this case, I go down to 60, but just look at that the other way, and we have 100 FPS. Oh, still okay, considering that this card can be found 100 bucks. So it's a pretty nice card. Since we are at 1440p with a quality that is good. If I push all the settings to the maximum, well, it's just too much for this old glory, but still, I have 42 FPS. This side, 60. You may set for this, but honestly, I prefer when everything is at the recommended settings. So it's just a level 10 with this customized to everything in good except Sunshaft at low. Now you will see the difference, that is not too much. So take a look around. So we are losing a bit of shadows, but the texture and everything is pretty okay. And we have 60 FPS, 90 on this side. But now let's take a look to other zones. Alright, so after questing a little bit in the mall, as you can see, I have an average of 112 FPS, 82 1% low, 71.1% low. The card is doing great. The quality is good, literally, pun intended. And well, I think the compromise is worth, at least so far. So in Arden, well, the general world questing and even in the MO is still fine. And now let's try a harder situation and let's jump into the battlegrounds. Now I'm waiting to enter the 40-man battleground, and it's a good occasion to roam a bit here in Oribos. And well, we still have 100 FPS, and keep in mind that I'm running a Zen 3 CPU that is very powerful, and the RAM as well is well tuned. If you have a Zen 2 or a Generation 9 Intel, you will be probably at the very limit being CPU bound. So in this case, now you sometimes you can see 130 with a Zen 2, a Zen 1, or a Gen 9 Intel, you will be like at 110 limited by the CPU. So even if you have a 3090 Kingpin, trust me, I tried, you cannot push too much the FPS more than this, even with a top tier high-end card. One more thing, since seems the queue is very long, and it's important to notice that I'm at 1440p and I'm not saturating the VRAM of the GPU. World of Warcraft is not like the AAA game, it's an old engine, and I don't need too much VRAM to make it work properly. So we are at 2.7 gigabyte, and well, this card is at 3 gigabytes, so we are just perfect for the size. Since I'm still waiting 52 minutes, I decide to go do some questing in Bastion. And here as well I have an average of 93 FPS. This is another really tough zone, so I guess this result is pretty good. Maybe in the next days I will try to compare this card to other second-hand card or lower tier card like the 1650 Super, something like that, that can be found, can still be found at a decent price. So again, so far 93 FPS on average, 63 1% lows. The game is perfectly smooth. So yes, it's safe to say that this card to do some world questing on this type of activity, you can play it very nice. All right, so finally I've made my way into a 40-man battleground, in this case Althyr Valley, one of my favorite. And well, so far so good. We are at 144 FPS, and the GPU is like almost topping out. But still, let's see how it behaves when we have a lot of spell. Well, in the last fight. So I'm going to speed up this battleground. I will reset the average so you can see at the end how we are doing. Alright, finally some action. We are full of spell. As you can see, the GPU is now at 99%, so we are still having 125 FPS, 82, well, but it's still playable when. And again, keep in mind that we have this level of performance mainly for the CPU, because again, if you have an older generation, you will not have by any chance this level of FPS in this situation. And we even get the victory. Alright guys, what did we learn? Well, we can run the game with an old high-end GPU, and we don't need too much VRAM to make it run properly. I'm not a big fan of advising to buy second-hand components, but desperate times, desperate measure. And this, for 100 bucks, it seems a good fit if you need a temporary GPU or if you are building a new rig and you want to wait that the price and the stock availability came to a normal and not crazy levels. If you decide to go down this road, there are some things that must be taken into consideration. Is a second-hand card, so when you acquire it, you may perform some maintenance like the thermal pads or the thermal paste. With the ages, those type of components tends to wear out, so it's better if you replaced it with new ones. The card is still an high-end card, so is a high power consumption card, and in this case, for the reference design, is noisy and hot. I was about 85 to 90 degrees in some overcrowded zones, so uh, keep in mind as well the case ventilation, the memory overclocking. It may be affected by a card that is hot and is also is big. In this case, it's not so big. This is a reference, but if we find a custom PCB design, it's probably a big one. So you have to take in consideration all these things. All right. So what's next? Tomorrow I have a 3060, the non-TI version here, hopefully, and I will try to do more or less the same exact test plus some overclocking and other stuff. And that card should be the best choice if you want to avoid miners. You cannot avoid scalpers, but well, it's probably your best choice for World of Warcraft to play at 1440p or even 4K. We will see, but that should be on your F5 refresh list. Because is one that is not a preferred card for miners, and you may have some more chance to get your hands on it. But you will see a dedicated video about that. Plus, I still have to finish to overclock the 3090 ping with liquid nitrogen. So I will try to schedule a live stream maybe this Saturday. I don't know. I have to find the time to do some kind of pre-test so I can give you a nice show and not full of troubleshooting and zero scores. But well, that's it for today. And as always, like if you like the video, subscribe for more, and see you in the next one.